la maison qui t'amuse pas.
Ehi, lasci di rue! Giusta di montare!
E aí, gatinha? Tu tá indo pra onde? Tu tá indo pra onde?
大赛马上要临近了，
我不想再练了。
儿子，你行的啊，你可以的，孩子。
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? So, happy Mother's Day, my fellow moms. I have to be honest. If I was not scheduled to speak today, I would probably be in bed, resting a bit. But God has his plans and purposes, and I am seriously going to be practicing what I'm about to preach right now. And I'm kind of thinking, after prayers for healing, and, my voice sounds this way, I kind of think of like the Beatles' hit song, Twist and Shout, when John Lennon was like hoarse and he recorded it, and it was just, you couldn't picture it any other way. So that if you bear with me, this is how my voice sounds. It's just, that's how the message is going to be, it's Lord's purposes in it. Thank you. So the video we just watched was actually a P&G commercial that was shown 2 years ago during the Rio Olympic Games. And I wanted to ask Mom's question. Moms, how many of you would consider yourself to be strong in one way or another? Okay. How about dads? Would you consider yourself to be strong? And anybody else in the congregation? Yeah? Got strength? And a slightly different question, how many of us here today would say that we're in need of strength? Yeah. So as this video shows, there's all different kinds of strength. There's the physical strength, like that which a gymnast needs to fling herself over the parallel bars, or a runner needs to sprint to the end of the finish line. Or maybe if you're, mom and you got a whole bundle of groceries, you're trying to get into the house with one trip. We need physical strength. There's mental and emotional strength, like if you're being, maybe you have a little one who's kind of screaming and having the tantrum in the middle of the grocery store kind of thing. Or if somebody's yelling at you in a different way. Or your teenager maybe isn't quite listening to your words, needs some mental and emotional strength. And there's strength of heart or character, which a person can show herself to be courageous in the face of trials, or resilient after experiencing disappointment or setback after setback. Now, when it was first proposed to me that I might be invited to speak today on this Mother's Day, I brought the opportunity before the Lord, and I was just like, Lord, what would you have me say? What is your message? It's Mother's Day, was focused on that. And God clearly directed me to Psalm 18, which was a psalm that was unfamiliar to me at the time. And he brought to life the first 3 verses. And this is a psalm King David had written when the Lord delivered him from the hands of all of his enemies from Saul. And they read, I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. My God, my rock in whom I take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. So the Lord's message for us today here at New Song LA is that he is our strength. Whether you're waking up every few hours in the middle of the night trying to feed a hungry baby, or you're trying to discipline your children with compassion and gentleness and patience, or if you're seeking to further your education and you're working hard, or maybe you're subjected to bullying or abuse or struggling with addictions, or just grieving the loss of a loved one or seeing someone who's sick suffer, God is here. He's telling you that he is your strength in all of that. As the P&G ad concluded, it presented this profound statement: it takes someone strong to make someone strong. And God is saying, I'm that someone, capital S, and I am making you strong. So in our world today, it is undeniable that strength is necessary. We need strength. And why is that? Well, you see in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth and everything that was in them, including man and woman, he looked on his creation with adoring eyes and determined it was very good. And in that paradise that God had made, that he wanted to share existence with, man and woman, Adam and Eve, walked freely with their God. They had their needs met by him. There was trust. There was a bond. They enjoyed the fullness of his presence. But when God's people, Adam and Eve, decided to eat from the one tree that God specifically and clearly instructed them not to eat from, that's when hardships and suffering and trials and injustice and brokenness entered into their existence and therefore into our existence. Listen to the consequences of man and woman's disobedience. To Eve, God said, in Genesis 3, I will surely multiply your pain and childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. And to Adam, God said, cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Now, not God, part of God's original plan, now man and woman would have to experience physical pain. Though he commanded humankind to be fruitful and multiply, and he had given every plant for food, now there would be struggle. There would be need for physical strength as we fulfill those commands to bear children or labor for our livelihood. And now our bodies that were meant to and designed to be in communion with God forever and ever, they would break down with age. They would deteriorate and die. We need physical strength here. And Adam and Eve would have needed the mental and emotional strength as well. As you can see, when you have a physical challenge, whether you're an athlete, it takes the power of the mind to push through that at times. And so Adam and Eve would have to push through these physical trials. And also the mental and emotional strength. Just imagine as they turned their back on paradise, on the garden, and stepped out into a trouble-filled, unknown world. Now, man would have to experience fear and anxiety. So in our sinful nature and man's sinful nature, man assumed responsibility to make decisions for ourselves and to provide for ourselves, to be on our own. And it's in our sinful nature, that which is against God, that we think of ourselves first and foremost. It's like putting yourself on the throne of your life, right? And people just naturally being selfish, how that selfishness puts a strain on relationships, it shows in the Father and with God, walking away from him, needing to do that, a strain in our relationships, whether it's a marriage or a friendship, in a family. So we need the mental, emotional strength to own our mistakes, to confess them, to look for and seek forgiveness, understanding, reconciliation. And with death part as our existence, we need to carry on when loved ones pass away or when we see somebody struggling. So we need strength in this world now because this world is hard. It's not a walk in the park, and it's not a walk in the garden anymore. It's challenging. And instead of unity with God, as he had planned, there's division, right? Instead of harmony, there's discord. And instead of peace, there's war. And this brings us to the second part in terms of why we need strength. And it's because all of us are involved in what is the absolute greatest war of all time. It's not the war on terror. It's not the war on drugs. It's not a war over in the Middle East. It's not any of the world wars that we could imagine put together, or even if there was a war that erupted from North Korea or something, it's far worse and more intense than that, because this war involves every single human being that has ever existed, is existing now, and ever will exist. And that war is the war that Satan decided to wage against God. Every person participates, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and every person is going to end up as either a casualty or a conqueror in the end. And so, even when you look back in Genesis 3 at the fall, you see that man and women just wake up one day and say, oh, I have an idea. Let's do the exact opposite of what God tells us to do. Let's just try it out. We first see the serpent influenced by Satan, right? He says to Eve, did God actually say, you shall not eat of the tree in the garden? He initiates and causes that seed of doubt, planting it there, tempting man to turn away from their creator, to go ahead, be on your own. Surely you won't die, he says. So this is a spiritual war. And the Apostle Paul details the nature of this war in Ephesians 6 and 2 Corinthians 10. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, having done all to stand firm. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. Whoever here identifies himself as a child of God, which I pray is everybody, know this, as a child of God, you are also a warrior of God. Amen. So you might think you don't have any enemies, but you got one. The biggest one. Our Father's enemy is our enemy. Amen. And so this enemy is constantly tempting us, wanting us to pull away, to do that which God would not have us to do, to take us from that relationship from him. He is the roaring lion seeking somebody to devour. He is the father of lies. He is the thief who is trying to steal, to kill, and to destroy. He is striving and trying so hard to rob us of our joy, to kill our peace, to question our faith, to be discouraged, to be anxious, burdened, and hopeless and weak. Strength is necessary to fight this ongoing battle until the day we leave this earth or the Lord returns. So God absolutely knows that we need strength. He knows the condition of the world right now, and he completely knows the nature of the spiritual battle. And through his word, God continually commands us and encourages his people, us, to be strong and courageous. Whether it's like in Psalm 27, which says, wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord.